We are excited always to have our friend John Ondrasik from Five for Fighting on. And just a few days ago, really, in Israel, and just a few hours before that attack from Iran. And I think we got to start there, John. Even since you've been here in studio with us, you've been to Israel, I think maybe multiple times at this point. You've been speaking around the country. You've been talking with students, and you've obviously seen what's been going on in college campuses. But you were there to show your support, and maybe just give us a bit of a brief kind of recap of what all went down when you were over there.
Yeah, nice to see you, Logan.
You too.
After kind of OK came out and Israel shared it on their social media, I got, thousands of emails from Israelis and Jewish people who feel abandoned by the arts. And I was on tour. I'm still on tour, but I had a 6-day break a week ago. And so I went over to Israel. Some folks asked me to come, and I met with some injured troops, jammed with them. I met with many of the hostage families, which is, there's no words for that, just excruciating, but told them, of course, we have their back. And yeah, I was asked to perform at the Hostage Square rally every Saturday night in the middle of Tel Aviv. They have a big rally to support the hostages. Hostage families speak, thousands of people come. And before the performance, I heard an announcement I'd never heard before, Logan. The announcement was this: in event of a missile attack, please shelter in place, lay on the ground and cover your heads. And I'd never heard that before, but here's the crazy thing. Nobody left. Nobody left. That just shows you the kind of fortitude of the Israeli people. But it was an honor to sing OK and Superman for them, to say some words. It reminded me of my performance at the Concert for New York, to look into their eyes and see their pain. And you're right. When I walked off stage, they said, airspace is closed. You need to be in your hotel in your safe room by 11 o'clock. And yeah, me and my son kind of wrote out the Iranian attack, and shout out to the Iron Dome, or we may not be talking right now.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing story, but also an amazing piece of technology that has been really showcased over the last few days, the last few weeks, as we've seen, the attack from Iran. And of course, you had people saying, well, it was an unsuccessful attack, so technically it's not even an attack. It's nothing. But you were there. You heard those warnings. Jordan, I know you've been there. You've heard those warnings. Yeah. And obviously I've been to Israel before, but not during wartime. When you hear these stories, I'm sure it brings back some memories for you too, Jordan.
Yeah, but John, I was going to ask you, because you were there uniquely at a time. This is the first time Iran, throughout its history and Islamic Revolution there, so since 1979, they used their proxies and Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthi rebels and everyone, but they have never fired directly from their own country into Israel. And then we saw, of course, Israel fire back. And while it was a big failure by Iran in the sense that, like you said, all those systems worked, I think you realize, maybe now looking back, you were there for a very unique moment in history, which I don't think we've seen play out yet at all. Because when Israel fired back, what they fired back was very strategically, and they kind of showed Iran, see, we can stop your weapons, you can't stop ours, and look where we put ours. We put ours right next to your nuclear facility, we put it right next to your military base, just to show you what happens if you keep taking these kind of steps. And will it escalate? Does it de-escalate? We don't know yet, but certainly I think to live through that experience, it had to be something, again, historic in one sense, and also extremely unique, to know that all those systems were firing. So when you were at your hotel, were you taken to a specific room inside the hotel, like in a shelter?
We were in Tel Aviv, so we were kind of the furthest, from Iran. And every hotel has a safe room on each floor. Every building, I didn't know this, every building house in Israel has a safe room by law. They also had a big safe room in the basement. So we were prepared to either, walk across the hallway or go down to the basement. But I think you're right, Jordan. When they said ballistic missiles were being fired, look, I brought my son with me. My wife did not want him to go. He's 24. He could make up his own mind. And look, you're right. Because the Iron Dome works so well, people kind of shrug it off. But look, they were firing at Jerusalem. Okay. So this was a civilian attack. And I think people need to understand that. I was texting with Mark Levin, he was in Jerusalem. I was worried about him. So I think people are kind of understating it. But yeah, I'm really glad now that things are well and I'm back in the States, that I was there, because I saw, quickly through my whole trip, the unique fortitude of the Israeli people, and also their ability to find joy and compassion and live their lives under this imminent threat. After the performance, my entourage wanted to go to dinner. They're like, we have a reservation. I'm like, guys, the bombing starts in 3 hours. And they're like, yeah, 3 hours. We got 2.5 hours. Who does that? So to kind of see, and immerse myself in the Israeli culture, I've changed, being there just for 5 days. So I'm glad I was there. And you're right, this has a long way to go, but I look forward to going back. And I really am glad that an artist, American, non-Jewish artist, was able to speak to the country and let them know that they're not abandoned, because they feel they are. And in many respects, from the music business, they have been.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that too. Obviously, we've seen the protests on campuses, especially this week, but also last time you were here, we were kind of heading into award season. It was February. We were both talking about, the Grammys were coming up and what was going to be said, or the Oscars. Was anything going to be said? We're a few months even removed from that now. And again, it feels like the entertainment industry, other than a handful of you, and I would say there'd be a very selective group of people who I follow and engage with on social media. Some of, like you, have become friends, who are out there still speaking out. And I know you have been trying to sort of rally the entertainment troops, if you will. But how's that process going now, seeing the chaos that's breaking out in the streets of America?
As I said last time, it's a historic shame. It feels like me and David Draymond are like, the two musketeers. Certainly in Hollywood, there's some champions. Deborah Messing has been a great supporter, me and Bialik. So there's at least, a little bit of momentum on the acting side. But yeah, it makes no sense. The moral cowardice of the music industry and the moral cowardice of musicians. Now, I haven't heard it yet, that Barbara Streisand put out a song about anti-Semitism. So if that's the case, props to her. Thank her for that leadership. But yeah, I'm working now more with Ukrainian artists. I met many Israeli artists over there. I met with Idan Reichel. I met with Danny Sanderson. So many Ukrainian artists into this. Iranian artists, dissidents are into this. So hopefully America will wake up. But, I think it's really a reflection of America right now. Anthony Blinken said if Israel doesn't change their ways, that they may become indistinguishable from Hamas. So when you have that kind of leadership and that kind of despicable rhetoric from your leadership in America, it gives, I think, license to many of these artists in the media and everybody who either wants to slam Israel for the genocidal, work they're doing, or remain quiet. So the whole thing of my song, "We Are Not Okay," I think we see that every day in all these institutions, on the Hill, in media, the music industry, and now, of course, on our college campuses. Just this morning, I was reached out to by the Columbia Jewish Alumni Association, and I look forward to going to campus and walking through the bullies and playing okay, just like I have been every night on my tour. So it's time to go on offense. I think a lot of Jewish folks and Jewish, have been kind of on defense, and they don't want to push back. It's not in their nature. But, like you guys fight the good fight every day. And I think we need to take it to the bullies, because at the end of the day, that's all they are. They're bullies. They're brainwashed kids. They think they're virtue signaling. They want to cosplay Hamas. So I think you stand up to them. And, I think we can turn this thing around.
Absolutely, John. And we'll make sure we put links up for everything to make sure people, you're on the road right now. I was curious, we only about a minute and a half left here, but you're on the road as Five for Fighting, performing, playing okay in these sets. How is the audience receiving this? Because I think the problem that maybe we're seeing in the media is the portrayal of the average American. And I have a feeling on the road, it's maybe a different story.
Good question. And a great experience I've had. Certainly Jewish people come up and say thank you. But I think what's more interesting and possibly more important is people who are not Jews and people who may be on the fence. I talk about the fact that one of the heroes of my video is a Palestinian woman. I talk about this as good versus evil. I talk about this as generational, those who want to protect civilization against those who want to tear it down. And after the show, so many of people come to me who, again, may not be, quite as clear on this as us. And what they say is, thank you for standing up for good. They don't say thank you for standing up for Israel. They say thank you for standing up for good. And I think that's the message we need to take. This is much bigger than Israel and Hamas. And that's one thing I'm trying to push through. So it's been really good. Of course, there's been some college students who throw a tantrum and say you never can come back, but that goes with the territory.